Hey guys, Ryan from Spyker Workshop, and today I'm going to show you how to connect our mounting kit to a Traxxas TRX-4. The kit will come with some screws and printed parts, and these are spacers that you can put in the shocks. I'll show you that later. So here's a guide paper that kind of shows how the parts will be assembled. So I got the truck prepared. I took the bumper off and this mount piece off. It was like 6 screws total. So my bracket here kind of goes in the frame rail like this, and you can still use the same stock bumper with my mount, and then connect the rod together with that set screw. The newer kits that I'm shipping out are going to be coming with 20 kg servos. I've been shipping them with 10 kg servos like forever, but I've been hearing that sometimes they'll burn out if the snowblower is held up for a long time and stuff like that. So I'm going to be trying these. Should be a lot better. So I'm going to start putting together the servo next. So that's this part here. So I'm going to connect the servo just like that here. Get the linkage together like I did there. So here you can see I got the servo ready. Don't put on the horn yet until we get power to everything, because you want to make sure it's set up right. And then I got the frame rail here. So I fed the wire up in through here, and then this just slides on here like that. And then you can either use the stock screws or these 4 of these smaller screws on the end there. You can see on the diagram here, these ones right there. So next step is to get the linkage set up and ready to go. So I have the servo horn, servo screw, and then just like the diagram shows here, that's this part like this. We're going to put one end in here, and there's different adjustment holes, so a lot of this stuff you're going to have to play around with to get the right throw, like how far the snowblower lifts up and down. There's quite a lot of stuff that you can adjust here. I'm going to put it in the very farthest outside one, and then use this screw. So here I have that connected to this part. So now that we have all that ready, the next thing is to get the screws going for the bracket. So I won't show it with the snowblower right now, just so it's easier to see on camera, but these will be connected to the actual snowblower. My newer 1X-2, or if you have the older 1X, it looks the same on this end, but I won't connect that yet, just so you can see what's going on here. If you can see on here those screws, that basically is where that will line up on. So like right here, we'll put the longer ones with the washer here. Like you see on the diagram, this will connect like this. So here you can see how that should look on the brackets. And then I'm going to use the other 2 screws to connect it like this. So here I have the bracket connected. So you'll have to play around with the different linkages here. So like in this case, I have to actually bend this a little bit. And then you'll want to do this with the servo powered. So what you want to do is bring the servo so it's all the way back this way, and then connect your linkage at the farthest possible downward point like this, so you're not hitting your axle. Then you'll have to adjust the endpoints on your radio. There's these little screws on the side that kind of clamp the servo, and then also the screw for that. So this is what it should look like in the end here. And like I mentioned, you're going to have to adjust the endpoints. And then this will be connected to the snowblower, either my newer one or there's an older bracket that still looks the exact same for the older 1X. When you lift the snowblower up, the whole point of this kit is you want to be able to lift up the snowblower to turn easier with the truck. With the snowblower on the ground, it's hard to turn. So when the snowblower gets lifted up in the air, the whole front end will kind of come down. So I included these really simple spacers on all 4 of your shocks here. You basically come in here and lift up the spring and then put the spacer in there, kind of like the bottom first. So see that? So now the truck has like a rigid front end. So while you're using the snowblower, it doesn't really have suspension, but that's what you want. You're not going to really be doing that much off-roading while you're snowblowing your driveway. So you'll also want to lock the rear shocks too, and then the more weight you can have in the truck, the more traction you'll have pushing the snowblower. Here I have the snowblower attached, and then the Traxxas bracket. It's adjustable here, like I was mentioning in the snowblower assembly video. But this is how it should look with it attached. And then you'll have to, like I mentioned, adjust the endpoints and stuff, like minimum, maximum. There's quite a lot of different things you can do to adjust it. Also, don't forget to put in the suspension lockers. There's those plastic pieces in there because you want to lock the suspension. So then I have all the different control cables coming up through here. I found this was like a decent spot to get the cables to the receiver. Motor wire comes up over here. And there's a few changes I did to my TRX-4. First of all, I ditched the speed controller that came with this truck. I really like these Hobbywing 1060 controllers because they have a jumper here you can remove. If you take out the first jumper, then there's no brake, so you can go from forwards to reverse instantly. And when you're running the snowblower, you want that really fine control, being able to go from forwards to backwards right away. I found it was kind of a pain to have to hit the brake, and then sometimes the radio wouldn't register going into reverse right away. So I switched to that. And then also there's tons of motor options on the snowblower. Currently I'm running the 775 brushed motor, but a motor like this is also an option. This is a brushless motor, 4250, 560 kV, but there's many different sizes you can fit on here. You can go all the way up to a 50 millimeter diameter motor. This one I'm actually running 24 volts to it. The brush motors too also can handle 24 volts. Certain models of them, I should say. And the Hobbywing 1060 speed controllers can only handle 12 volts, so you need a different controller if you want to go all the way up to 24 volts. This here is the controller I'm running for that brushless motor. These are actually for airplanes, so there's no reverse on these, but you don't really need a reverse on a snowblower. You can simply switch the two outer lines to get it in the right direction. And then no matter what motor setup and speed controller setup you want to run, I recommend running a totally separate battery than the truck itself. So we sell these battery boxes. They look like a generator, and on the TRX-4 I sell a specific kit that hangs it off of the rear. There's a printed part you put in the frame here. So it's 4 screws to remove the bumper, then you insert that part, put the stock bumper right back on, and you can see the adjustment holes here. You can adjust the battery box forward and backwards depending on your actual rig setup. But the whole purpose of this is quite a few different things. So the snowblower, you need to be able to raise and lower the snowblower. That's the whole point of this mounting kit. So when the snowblower is up in the air, there's a ton of, you can see I have no batteries in there right now. You can see the rear wheels are just barely on the ground. The whole point of lifting it up is to be able to steer easier, because with the blower on the ground, it's very difficult to steer the truck. When you're done blowing like a path, you want to lift the blower up to turn, do a U-turn and keep going. When the rear wheels come off the ground, it actually can't steer with it down or up in the air. The first benefit of the weight box is when you've got batteries in here, it keeps more weight on the rear axle, so then no matter what the position is, you have a lot of extra traction and control of the whole truck. If you don't want to run this box, then I'd recommend putting like lead weights above the wheels or somewhere in the back end, because you want to add weight to the rear of the truck. And then the second thing is also the counterbalance. Besides traction, when you lift it up in the air, you need the weight here. The benefit of the box too is there's so much space in here that you can fit one of these 12 volt, 12 amp hour lithium packs. However, if you want to step up even further to like 24 volts, you can fit multiple lipos in the back here. So there's enough space to physically fit six pretty standard sized lipo packs. And then of course you'd have to make some connectors. This connector here is a series connector. So this will take 2 battery packs and combine the voltage up. So it will increase like these ones here are 3S. So 2 of these will go up to 6S, which is about 24 volts. And then you could, in theory, stack 3 of those, so you'd have 6 batteries, and then you'd have 6 separate 24 volt packs, which then you could make another harness that combines them in parallel. Another connector, like here's a parallel connector. Parallel basically adds all the red wires and all the black wires together. So if you went with a setup like this, 2 series connectors and then a parallel connector, now you'd actually have 4 LiPo batteries at 24 volts, but twice the capacity, if that makes sense. Quite a lot of options for battery power. And then, of course, if you don't want to use the battery box, if you just don't like the look of it or whatever, you can still do all that right here. Maybe Velcro strap the batteries in here depending on how much space you got under your body. So tons of options. Obviously the Traxxas motor can't handle 24 volts, so that's why I'm running 2 speed controllers, 2 separate batteries. So the Traxxas speed controller is just going to a 7.2 volt battery. I prefer the slower one just so you have more fine control of driving. The 3S, I feel like just a little bit too fast. To talk about the radio, so the standard Traxxas controller, this style controller cannot output enough functions for the snowblower. The snowblower itself needs to add between 3 and 4 channels depending on if you got the upgrade or not. And the Traxxas, I believe, can only do 5 channels, which is what the truck itself needs. So to combine them together, I highly recommend switching the whole truck over to this radio. It's a FSI-6X, and they sell specifically one that comes with a 10-channel receiver. So with this 10-channel receiver, make sure if you do get that this radio that you specifically get the 10-channel, because they also sell a 6-channel. They're all about the same price. These are 50 to 60 bucks at the time of this recording. So really nice radio, even though it's really inexpensive. I use these radios on all my RCs. So here I have a little list of the channel usage. So channel 1, the steering for the truck. Channel 2 is the blower lifting up and down. That's on this channel here. I should also mention I took the radio apart and physically swapped the joysticks, because typically this is on this side, the joystick that stays where you put it, normally meant for airplane throttle. I prefer it on this side, so if you don't like this setup, your channels will be slightly different. So it's channel 2 is the snowblower up and down, and it's nice because it'll stay where you put the snowblower. And then channel 1 is the truck steering. So I have it where this is the truck's throttle and this is the steering for the truck. And then this one is the chute left and right where the snow is blowing out. Channel 5 is not used, so you can even have a 10th extra channel for something else. Channel 6 is set to this dial here, and that will stay where you put it, so that's nice for the chute spout, the angle of the snow coming out. And then all the functions for the truck are still maintained. So channel 7, you can independently turn on and off the rear diff, something you couldn't do with the Traxxas radio. They had that function where it was kind of mixed into one switch. And then this I have set to the transmission high and low. This is the other diff lock. And then this one I have set to the snowblower speed controller, so you can have reverse, off, or forwards. So with this setup, you still have a really good control over the truck and the snowblower all with one radio. And then here you can see, for those, what channel I've actually put them to on the plug on the receiver. And then one thing not mentioned here is the lights for the snowblower can go into the battery slot on here. And then another thing to mention is if you have two speed controllers going to the same receiver, one of them you should remove the power wire. You should never have multiple speed controllers power wires going in here, because those are what actually are feeding power to this. So if you have two of them trying to feed power to this, they kind of fight over each other, and it's just not good for the circuit boards. So make sure to remove one cable and just kind of have it loose here. Probably a good idea to put a shrink wrap tube over that. And then just a quick overview of how these radios work. Firstly, when you turn them on, they'll ask you to put stuff in certain spots. So they want all the switches to be up, and then kind of jiggle the joysticks up and down. If you hold down OK, that's where you can get to some of the settings here. And then, let's see, in this menu here, you have certain things like switching the channels forward and backwards. I'm not going to walk you through all this, I'll just show you a general overview. And then endpoints, you can set all the endpoints. Hitting OK goes down the list, and you have all the way down to channel 10. So you can adjust the endpoints for the diff lockers and stuff like that. And then any changes you make, you actually have to hold down cancel. For some reason, holding down cancel will actually submit all the edits you've made. Not sure why they did it like that. And then here's where you can edit your channels. I just left mine stock. The VRA and B, that's talking about the two dials up on top, and then goes all the way through the other channels. So like if you want to rearrange the diff locks and stuff. And then once you have, what I recommend is go through and set up each function, make sure everything's working how you want it to. Then you'll come through here and go to the RX setup. There's a failsafe menu. So once your whole rig's set up and working right, you want to go through here and hit OK on each one of these and turn it from off to on, and then hit OK. This will make it so if the radio loses control, everything will be set to like default values. So, you know, turn off the blower and stuff when you go in here, and then holding cancel will save all that out. So then here I'll turn on the radio and then both speed controllers. Here you can see that I have the snowblower up and down. When you're raising and lowering the snowblower, you'll want to adjust basically all the different linkages and stuff and the settings within the radio. So here I am in the endpoints. So all the way down, I have it set to 15. So you can see if I up that, at a certain point it lifts the front wheels off the ground, and you want it to be, so I'm going to lower that back down. You want it so the wheels are touching the ground somewhat, because if the snowblower lifts itself too high up in the air, you know, then you lose all steering. So it's kind of a fine balance to fine tune that. And then also you want it to be lifting itself up somewhat, so then there's like some down pressure. You don't want the snowblower to be floating, otherwise you'll go up over the snow. So it's kind of a fine balance to tune that. And then when I lift it all the way up, you'll want to adjust the upper end point so the body of the truck doesn't hit the snowblower. So there's quite a few things to play around with that to get it dialed in. And then one other thing to dial in is when we turn our chute around here. First of all, if the chute's wandering on you, like this or something, you'll have to adjust the endpoints of that, because the servo is modified so it can have a little bit of roaming in it, kind of. But then the actual spout, which is on this channel here, you can see that. You'll also want to come in on the radio. I believe that was channel 6. You'll want to make sure that it's not overpowering. You can hear if it's too much. You can hear the servo struggling to try. So you want to lower that down, basically until it doesn't bind. And then same with on this side. You know, it doesn't need to go that far past, so you can adjust that down. And then, yeah, it should be something like that when you get that dialed in. And then the other functions, like I mentioned, so if we lift the snowblower up in the air, then we can have steering and throttle of the truck with this one. I'd recommend always having it in low, which you'll have to adjust the endpoints on that too, and the reversing of the channels to get that how you want. But I have it set so up is in low, down switches into high gear. It's a lot of extra stress on the whole Traxxas truck because the blower is like 6 pounds, and then however much weight you put in the battery box. So I recommend only going into high if you're going straight, otherwise be in low. And then I have it so my diffs are off when it's up, and then locked when it's down. In general, I think you really only need to lock the rear diff when you're blowing with snow. With the front diff unlocked, you always have better steering, because when you lift the blower up in the air, it puts like a ton of extra weight on the front axle, so I would keep that unlocked. And then also the blower, like I mentioned, is on this middle one here, so and don't go in reverse right away, wait till it comes to a stop. Reverse is if you happen to get a clog or something. Sometimes going in reverse might clear itself out. That pretty much covers all the radio functions of that. This entire video also applies to other Traxxas products, like this TRX-6 flatbed hauler truck. The front is the exact same. The whole video is assembly is the exact same as the TRX-4, even down to all the electronics I was talking about. The only difference is if you got my battery boxes, they would be mounted directly on the flatbed, and you could actually fit several up here. And then also the kit will come with multiple suspension lockers, so you could lock all 6, because the snowblower needs to be lifted up, as you've seen. And same with if you put batteries back here. I think they had this a little too loose for what it's meant to be doing, hauling, you know. But yeah, otherwise everything we talked about applies to this thing too. Let me know if I missed anything, if there's anything else I could have talked more in depth about. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. So thanks for watching. Here's a little trick to change out the motor pinions easier if you want to work with different ratios. If you take out the 2 top screws on the TRX-4 mount, you can kind of lift it up and set it like that. And then you got access right here to the motor screw cover. And then right from here you can unscrew the pinion, readjust the motor.